and this is Lit Happens, your celebration of the literary arts here in Saskatchewan. Today I'm very pleased to welcome Robert Calder. Now Robert is a retired professor of English literature. He's received the Governor General's Award for Nonfiction. His subject matter includes W. Somerset Maugham and the Saskatchewan Roughriders. His new book is a hero for the Americas. Welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, Bob, I've known you for quite a while, and I'm always delighted by your subject material and the range of your subject material. Now, your new book is something that you've been interested in for quite a number of years now.
Yeah, it was a crazy thing to embark on in one way because I went out of my comfort zone completely. And my wife and I, about 15 years ago, we used to go to the Yucatan. We still go to the Yucatan Peninsula a great deal, you know, the Cancun and Playa del Carmen, wonderful part of Mexico. And we stumbled over a story that has not been told in English in full. And I decided to embark on it. And I followed Richard Ford's injunction, is that write about what you don't know. And boy, did I not know a lot of things about Spanish history, Mexican, Mayan history, but it's part of the research process, and it was a pleasure to do it.
And this story is a story that's a very thin thread. It's not a story that has a lot of documents and journals and facts that are easy for people to find.
Well, it's a story that occurred in 1512, and that's 500 years ago. That's before Shakespeare's time. That's before Henry VIII's time. And there aren't any new historical documents to be found to add to the story, but it's been a story that's become a legend, like Robin Hood or King Arthur or Spartacus, where people have built on the legend. And part of what I'm writing about in the book is the legend of Gonzalo Guerrero.
And so what was it about Gonzalo Guerrero that really captivated you right from the beginning?
Well, I didn't understand fully why it captivated me until recently, and I've tried to explain it at the end of the book, but he was a Spaniard who was shipwrecked on the Yucatan Peninsula before the Spanish had arrived, captured by the Maya, but rose up in the tribe, became a valued military leader, married the daughter of the chief, and was the first parent of a mestizo, a mixed-race person, in the history of Mexico. And so he's revered because Mexico is 60% mestizo, and he's revered as one of the first people. And also, he didn't impose his European way of life and values and everything on the Maya. He adopted their customs. And I find that a very interesting model today, since we're wrestling with how we balance off European values with indigenous spiritual and other values.
Now, one of the things that I found interesting in the book is the place that it's set in, because that's a place that we know, and we can look back and we see the ruins and we see what it is now, and you've taken us into the space as well as the story.
Yeah, the Yucatan Peninsula is a wonderful place. If you look at it on the map, it sticks out like a thumb over to one side, and it's always seen itself essentially as a separate country, and 3 times in its history it tried to be separate. And it was one of the last places to be conquered by the Spaniards, and one of the reasons for that, it is assumed, is that the Maya were led by Gonzalo Guerrero, who told them how to fight the Spanish. So it took them a long time. But it is a part of the world where millions of people go every year. And as you say, they enjoy the beach, they enjoy the pina coladas, but they also climb the pyramids and visit the ruins. And this is a story that takes them back 500 years.
And I know we've spoken before about how you hope that people will find relevance and maybe pick it up in the airport when they go down to Mexico.
Well, I think 2 things. I think people who do travel there will find it very interesting to read about this early history of the very place they're seeing. And they will see signs of Gonzalo Guerrero The Spaniard, in statuary and names and districts named after him in the Yucatan. The other relevant thing that I think is more important, as I said earlier, is that he provides a paradigm, a model for how you can have a blend of European ways of doing things and indigenous ways of doing things. And that goes all the way from Chile right up to Alaska.
No, that's fascinating and really, really timely and,
oh, yes.
and important to think about.
It's one of the key problems of the Americas, North or South America now, is how do we blend the things together without one side imposing its values on another. And in Canada, we're wrestling with that, and we're making progress toward a blend of these things.
Now, was there anything that you learned that you found surprising as you were pulling together these threads and?
Well, I learned a lot about myself and my own society because I began to think about this and realize how much, as John Ralston Saul says, we are a Métis nation, whether we have indigenous blood in us or not. All of us are doing things that we've learned from the indigenous people. And I grew up in a place that I used to write down when I was a child, Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. That's how I identified my place in the universe. Those are all indigenous terms. And I didn't know it at the time that I was really identifying myself according to indigenous terms. Mexico is the same way. It comes from Mexica. The United States of America is a generic name in between us. They don't have any of that recognition of the indigenous value. But I began to realize how much, even though in my family we have been unable to find any trace of indigenous blood, but my grandparents and great-grandparents paddled canoes in Ontario. They chopped trees down. They used snowshoes that they made. They learned all of this from the indigenous community.
Well, it's a really interesting read, and I look forward to finishing it. I haven't yet, but I'm so glad we had a chance to talk about it. We're out of time already. Well, time goes by so quickly when we're talking about things that, that are so interesting.
Well, thank you very much.
I'm Danica Lorer, and this has been Lit Happens. Thank you for watching. You can find past episodes by going to YouTube and searching for Shaw TV Saskatoon. You can find me on Facebook by searching for Danica Lorer, or you can email me at danicalorer@gmail.com.